Hello family and welcome back. In this tutorial I'll be walking you through steps to create a stylish asymmetric flare dress with strap and neckline ruffles. No matter your experience level, I'm going to provide some of the helpful tips as I guide you through each step. So kindly don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Before we begin, let's gather the materials needed. First, you need 1 meter lining fabric for the inside of the top and skirt. I recommend you use a cotton lining. Next up is 1 meter of ruffling satin fabric. Consider using silk for more luxurious look. Lastly, we have 2.5 meters of African print fabric for the main body of the garment, top and skirt. To begin, let's get the pattern drafted on this pattern paper that is unfolded into 2 and with the shoulder line already drawn on it right here. Also bear in mind that the folded edge is our center front. Alright, let's mark the required horizontal measurements. I'm currently taking shoulder line to bust line at 10 inches. Next, I'll define the bodice full length, marking 15.5 inches waistline down. From there, I'll just repeat all the measurements taken on side 2. This will ensure clean and straight horizontal lines drawn across marked points. On top of that, let's label these lines from waistline all the way to the shoulder line. With that completed, I want to now draft a basic neckline that is 3 inches wide and 3 inches deep, and given this point, we'll use a curved line smoothing out neckline like that. On the same note, measure half shoulder measurement on shoulder line from center front, which in my case is 6.5 inches plus 0.5 inches stitching allowance. From there, I'm just going to move half an inch downwards for the shoulder slope. Thereafter, I'll draw a sloping shoulder line that runs from neck width down to the mark. I believe by now you all are aware that the chest line is always taken from the shoulder slope. Exactly what I'm doing. After marking at 7.25 inches, I'll square out a line represented as CL, meaning chest line. But it doesn't stop there, since we also need to transfer half shoulder measurement marked earlier at the top to it. This only ensures that the armhole depth is nice and in a straight line. Now we'll be focusing on taking quarter bust measurement on the chest line, basically bust circumference divided by 4. Additionally, find armhole depth midpoint and mark. Further on, go half an inch inwards from that exact mark, after which use a curve to create a smooth and accurate armhole curve as shown. Ready to create a basic dart? Here is how. Find halfway point your bust span and measure on both waistline and bust line as well. After that, connect the two with straight line and this will be your dart line. Again on waistline, mark half an inch on each side of dart line. This is how you create the width of your dart. Additionally, measure down 1 inch from the bust line and that's the total dart depth. From here, finish up the dart by drawing 2 lines radiating towards the apex as shown. I've decided I'm going to use a shoulder princess dart bust here. And for that reason, let's mark down about 4 3/4 inches from shoulder slope. Then I'll just extend that line to meet the mark on the armhole curve. A curved ruler will provide an extra support here, but if you don't have one, you can do this freehand. Like I said earlier, it's a bustier dart, meaning we need to snatch out about 0.5 inches on each side of the dart extension, just so we can connect the latest mark to that line as well using a curved ruler. Ever wondered why sometimes you end up having shortages around the armhole? Well, here is the solution to that limitation. After extending the first leg outwards like I've done, measure on each 1 inch. That's not all, since you'll be required to transfer the same to chest line, so that you can be able to come up with a newly drawn lower armhole as can be seen. With that in mind, go ahead and measure quarter waist circumference on the waistline, basically waist circumference divided by 4, plus 1 inch dart replacement, plus of course 1 inch more stitching allowance. I hope you still recall that I had marked quarter bust circumference on the chest line plus an allowance earlier, and the only thing left is adding half an inch dart replacement. And having marked, do the necessary. Someone might be wondering why I have drawn the side outline past waistline. Well, here is why. Once the princess dart is chopped and stitched back again, you're likely to have a shorter armhole, and that can only be solved by adding a few extra inches below waistline, so that after stitching the side panels back, you can be able to correct the armhole with the bodice maintained. And it's time to start tracing out everything drawn above on the piece underneath, the folded piece that is. Having traced out, let's unfold it. And very first, I'll go ahead and make all the traced crease visible. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you love to see more of these, like and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. I stopped at that, and the reason being it's an asymmetric dress. Okay, let's draft the neckline. I'm currently measuring 0.5 inches from the original width so that I'm able to smooth out neckline down towards the side junction. But first I'll mark at 5.5 inches from the shoulder line, since that's what I'm comfortable exposing. And as always, can't resist the power of a good pencil sketch first before committing to the final neckline with a marker pen. From there I can comfortably trace out armhole princess dart. I hope you notice how they are not being drawn beyond the neckline. And guys, if you want your boobs incorporated well inside the garment, you have to provide enough room. That's achieved by adding about 3/4 inches outwards before you can commit to the final lines with the marker pen. And for that reason, you are likely to end up with a very small side panel if you don't replace the dart on the side, which also leads to new side outline. I'm currently cutting out following the drawn outline. Next step involves drafting the back part on this other piece that is on fold, guys. No zip allowance needed since I'll have the zipper put on the side. The same way we did the front pattern, I'm going to now measure all the required horizontal measurements right from the shoulder line. This is a repetition, so in case you think I'm too fast explaining this part, that's why. Again, I'll measure 3.5 inches neck width since the front was also widened with 0.5 inches. On top of that is a basic neck depth of 1.25 inches. When done, smooth out neckline using a curved ruler. Let's now have half shoulder measurement marked on shoulder line, then go down by 1 inch for shoulder slope. This is also not new. If you can recall, it's the same procedure we used in drawing armhole depth, finding chest line as well as drawing it. From there, measure quarter bust circumference on the drawn chest line and mark so as to be able to draw a tiny armhole curve, which is slightly different from the front armhole. For darting purposes, measure half bust span on waistline from center back and on bust line as well, just so you can draw that line as can be seen. In addition to that, measure on waistline dart width of 1 inch, and when done, finish up the dart. Moving forward, you'll be required to measure quarter waist circumference on waistline from the center back, plus 1 inch dart replacement, plus 1.25 inches more for stitching allowance. Further on, add same stitching allowance to whatever was measured earlier on chest line so that you can easily draw side edge in that manner. Now that we have the bodice block, let's go ahead and trace out the drawn outline too on the paper under it. Having traced, let's unfold it. And very fast, I'll go ahead and make the traced crease visible. Pay close attention to this step to ensure accurate pattern. Remember, we used 5.5 inches as reference point earlier. That's exactly what I'm measuring, just so I can draw a consistent asymmetric neckline, same as the front. This is me cutting out along the outline all around. With me is back fabric and lining pieces after tracing out from the drafted pattern papers. Also are the front panels with 0.5 inches allowance left around them. Let's begin with removing pins used in securing these pieces together. Next up, we'll go ahead and put the pattern papers aside too, as I illustrate how stitching is done. First thing first, put right sides together and then stitch with 0.5 inches from one end all the way, both sides. Same goes for the lining pieces. I'm currently showing you how to stitch backside panel to the middle one with 0.5 inches. Bear in mind that stitching has to be done from bottom edges going up. As that is happening, take your time and be patient. Once done, notch all around the curved edge. This will cause your fabric to lay flat. Now that we have the front pieces worked on, let's also stitch basic darts on the back pieces using the notches as guide, both fabric and lining, remember. Before I head over to the ironing board, I want to attach linings to fabrics as well from their side edges with 0.5 inches in that manner. See what we've got after stitching and ironing. Bustier effect came out as it should, and I like this. Here is back piece well pressed too. Now we need to place the pieces together with right sides facing each other so that we can correct the front armhole depth. Remember, it was shortened after slashing out a few inches while creating a princess bustier. Pins are coming in handy to hold everything in place before I do the necessary. It's crucial to also measure the correct shoulder measurement before you begin cutting. I've decided to have mine as 2.5 inches plus 1 inch total stitching allowance. That being so, go ahead and cut out the front armhole as you ensure it aligns with the back. Let's move on to sealing the armhole by stitching with 0.5 inches. When done, I'll notch, after which we'll top stitch on the lining side very close to the seam line. Both front and back armholes sealed and top stitch. From here we can now join the shoulders. For a professional look, just grab one of the lining pieces and use it to cover everything else. Hence stitch with 0.5 inches. You see these lines? Those are my sewing guides. On your left, stitch normally to the mark, then back stitch and proceed with loose large stitches. Do not back stitch at the end cause you will be forced to rip out when fixing the zipper. After that, use small normal stitches on the right side top to bottom. Now we can proceed and make sure we have the required bodice length. Measure from the highest point of your shoulder down to waistline and mark bodice full length plus extra 0.5 inches stitching allowance. On the mark, draw a line across in that manner from where you'll be required to cut out. This is me taking the round neckline measurement, which is 30 inches. Let's do some calculation. Have 30 inches divided by 16, which is the number of folds. You'll see soon what I mean. The answer is 1.8. If you round that off, it will be 2. Though for the ruffles to form well, I'll be pleating as a stitch, which is why I'll add 3/4 inches more to the total radius I'm to use. With your satin fabric ready, have it folded into 2. Fold again the second time, and having achieved an alignment, fold it across this time. I want to show you how to arrive at 16. So far we have about 4 pieces on the upper section and 4 on the lower. So that's a total of 8 folds. Alright, when you fold again the last time like this, you now have 8 doubled. That's 16 folds. Like I said, the radius we're using is 2 3/4 inches. So have it measured across, but as you do that, ensure the heights are of the same measurements. Having marked, I'll confirm if the heights are indeed same before I proceed. It's time to measure the ruffle length. From the mark, I'll measure 4.5 inches downwards both sides. And with that completed, let's finish our flare by doing this. One end remains fixed at the apex as you draw an arc from the first mark to the second one. Same should be repeated on the upper side. When done, cut out along the 2 arcs. In short, we have a 720-degree flare, so let's cut through each one of them because we need to join them together. Well, have double hemmed all around the bottom edge. With me is a strap piece stitched and turned right side out. Have decided I'll use 12 inches plus 1 inch total stitching allowance. That makes the total length 13 inches. Stay focused to grasp the technique of how to attach strap to the neckline. First thing first, pin it down on one side as shown, then follow it with the second one, after which stitch with about 0.5 inches. Also me trying to stitch the flare all around the neckline as I pleat. I'm currently top stitching on the lining very close to the seam line. This will prevent the lining from showing on the fabric's right side. Ruffles are ruffling and I honestly like the outcome. Now that we are done making the top, let's make gathered stitches on the skirt ruffle piece, which are later used to form gathers. I'm currently attaching the 2 pieces together by stitching after I was done making gathers. Here's the final look, guys. It's equally important to know that the waistline is also gathered, and from here I'm going to attach skirt to top from waistline with 0.5 inches from one end to the other. I took my time in doing as I explained, and this is the outcome. One last thing guys is just to have lining stitch all around waistline from inside, and that's it. Feel free to personalize this design. You can adjust length to something that matches your style. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more sewing tutorials.